Hey everyone, welcome to the BetSperts Golf PGA Championship Roundtable, the last of the week. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited as always to be joined by Director of all things content related here at BetSperts. It is Andy Mahler. Andy, how are we holding up? It's been a busy week.
Yeah, I'm just I don't have my head-to-heads ready. I'm still working on that because I still have some question marks on the card. I had to ask some opinions, so I'm still betting. I did just bet I found a Cam Smith top 20 first round plus 220. So riding you there.
Love it. Yeah, that's lots of different ways to bet. We have majors. We have unique markets that I think have populated, today too. So definitely enough stuff out there if you are still looking to wet your beak. Really excited about our guests this week. We have dueling managing editors. First from Golf Digest, we have Stephen Hennessey, and then also from numberFire, Brandon Gdula. I watched the cut on Golf Channel, and I got Brandon's picks right in front of my face every week. Gentlemen, what's going on? Stephen, we'll start with you.
Man, excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And we were talking, it's like these major weeks, it just becomes, exhausting, and cannot wait until tomorrow when we actually have some golf to watch and we could stop second guessing all of our analysis.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see if all the things that we think we know are to be true are actually in fact true, and how we can maybe leverage that with some help of you guys today. Brandon, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, to get those picks in, you got to kind of break things down over the weekend, submit stuff kind of early, and now with the win we got going on, kind of changing tune a little bit. I feel pretty high with Cam Smith, kind of bumping down my guy JT. So, spend a lot of time working on this stuff. And then, sometimes last second, it feels like you need to make some changes. So that's kind of where I am, scrambling a little bit right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, so we want to have your thoughts. If you're hanging out with us and you're joining us live on YouTube, we would love to get any concerns or questions, things that you're considering and pondering. Because I know, similar to Brandon, if I would have shot my shots at the top of the board today, it probably looks a little bit different than what I did Sunday night, Monday morning, based off of the weather. And that's a big thing. And we'll probably start there. But again, definitely want you to participate as well if you're hanging out with us. So, but let's start there. Where are you at, Brandon? I think we're seeing, again, from a DFS standpoint, I think we get into this weather wave things here, AM, PM, but you look at Friday PM stuff, doesn't look very good either. So I don't know that there's necessarily a clear DFS split, but maybe first round leaders, or maybe again, being able to make the cut, even, having that advantage on Thursday. So what are your early thoughts? Do you think that there is a clear weather wave that we should be kind of factoring in on any of our late fires?
Yeah, I'm kind of bumping up the AM PM wave a bit. I think that's the safer route to go. But, one delay, that comes through, a few hours here or there, and then you're back in the wrong waves. So historically, I guess wrong, it feels like, whenever I try to do the waves. So I think for me, ultimately, as I'm editing my final lineups for the week, probably have some lineup splits of each type, some lineups with sort of disregarding the waves altogether. So kind of hedging. I know that's not that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think that's the way that I'm going to end up going more often than not.
That's smart. Andy, we've been here before, buddy. The players.
I can't get Sawgrass out of my head. Where did you stand on that, Steven, as far as before the tournament started, looking at that weather report, it looked like we were going to have one, and that's probably a really big edge case. We're not going to see weather weeks like that again, but how much have you looked at the weather? I quit today. I just gave up on it. I let everyone else inform me, but
yeah, I've been made fun of for my incorrect weather analysis, including at Sawgrass. And I think so many of us fell into that vacuum where, all of a sudden when there's a stop in the action, that just throws what we thought the splits were going to be all off. So, what Brandon said definitely makes sense. But, if you look a little closer at what the forecast is, it doesn't look like the storms might not start till 4 o'clock or so in Tulsa on Friday. So, how much it actually affects things, we'll see. They could get stopped on Friday afternoon, but that might also be a benefit. They might get, wet conditions come Saturday morning, and it's soft and it's easier. So, all things to consider, but, you got to rely on your early leans. I think, trust the ball strikers. That stuff's not going to change with the wind. That's just going to be amped up even more.
Yeah, I looked at the weather a little, the rain thing, because I like I said, I've just started watching videos from people who are doing on-course interviews. So I do like to hear what they have to say, because it's one thing when it's just, hey, we're at Bay Hill and it's the course that we play every year. But like, especially this one, not knowing much about, after they made the changes, and everybody has just said these greens are sloped. Like they all come to that same point. Like, these aren't big, and some of them are real nasty. So I think you're probably right. If you get like a late afternoon tee time on Friday and you get stopped after like 6 holes or something because it just starts dumping or hailing or locusts. It sounds like Oklahoma gets horrible weather, but you come out on Saturday morning and it's soft and receptive. Those slopes aren't so bad. You can hold those greens a lot easier. So maybe there is honestly, it'll be funny if we second guess this. And then some of these guys who end up getting to play like a Saturday morning round like that, we end up with like a stroke and a half wave advantage for AM, PM or something. But maybe that's why I think, like, especially for DFS, I'm going to build some strictly AM, PM kind of stuff where it's just like, if it comes through, I'm gonna make money off it one way or another.
Yeah, that's some next level galaxy brain stuff where we're starting to like forecast weather delays into it as well too, right?
So if it's a Monday finish, then
right. It's like we're pulling up Monday and Tuesday forecast, but like I get it. We were caught here with the Sawgrass stuff, so it makes a ton of sense. I want to get your guys' thoughts on some of the perceived things around the course, in particular, like obviously massive renovations here with the Gil Hand stuff since the last time we saw this, really playing completely different. I think obviously the biggest piece here is the shaved runoffs basically around the green, right? We have no more rough collar to catch anything. But I think I've heard some interesting analysis, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts around strokes gained around the green and essentially around the green stuff in general. Whereas we're not going to be looking at your typical chip that just fell off the green, right? We have these false fronts and these runoffs. They're going to create chips that are maybe 30 yards away, right? It's a very different skill set that I think you can get into, where strokes gained around the green can be fairly noisy, Steven. Do you think that it is going to be a little bit different of a skill set, whereas maybe Vic's not really good at chipping out of the rough from, say 10 yards away, but then maybe he's really good at picking it clean from 30 yards downhill, right? Like, so do you think that we really should be waiting around the green as we know it, knowing that this is somewhat a little bit different?
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaway from the past few days is, hearing everyone talk about strokes gained around the greens. And to your point, Ryan, like what we know about strokes gained around the greens, like it's completely different here. It's not your typical chip. So, I think earlier in the week, I was looking a lot more at strokes gained around the green, just, on all courses. I've kind of refined that a bit to be just strokes gained around the green at some similar type of short game courses. So at Augusta, at Shinnecock in 2018, I think that's a pretty good comparison in terms of short game. Some of these more firm and fast courses, I think that's where to look rather than, whether a guy could get up and down at TPC Deer Run. That's not going to really translate here. So yeah, I think that's a big takeaway that a lot of people listening to the show should look at, because what you've heard all week is strokes gained around the green is going to be big, but there's more dynamic analysis that you have to do there.
Yeah. Have you done any work on that, Brandon, or have any thoughts on that? Because it does feel a little bit different. And I feel like I'm gonna have some FOMO on some guys that are pretty dynamic with their irons. And I got caught kind of early in the week with the, basic strokes gained around the green stuff. And I feel like I maybe need to adjust or maybe sprinkle elsewhere.
Yeah, so I actually just today published an article because I was curious about some of this stuff about stabilization rates with strokes gained data and how long it takes to kind of be able to trust short game numbers. A lot of the times during lead-ins to majors, we're looking at these hyper recent samples, like what someone's done, the past week or two, maybe 3 leading in. And it takes about 24 rounds for strokes gained around the green to stabilize. So I just want to kind of throw that out there as something that we should be looking at. If you pull up, whatever your event log of choice is, Data Golf, Fantasy National, what have you, whatever you're kind of digging into, you can look at strokes gained putting and see it be up and down. And we know by now to look at, these outliers with the strokes gained putting from round to round, event to event, and say, hey, this guy's too cold, this guy's too hot. But actually the more volatile stat is around the green, and we don't really treat it that way. So one thing I kind of wanted to do was throw that out there as just keeping in mind that you kind of need at least 5-6 events to be able to trust what strokes gained around the green says. So with that considered, and with the fact that strokes gained around the green, you can only gain so many strokes around the green. Usually the field leader's around 5.5 to 6. That's about the same for off the tee, but off the tee of the 4 stats, by far the most predictive. So we're kind of dealing with strokes gained around the green as the sort of the least impactful and the least predictive of the 4 stats, but it's getting all this extra emphasis. And I'm guilty of that. I'm putting emphasis on strokes gained around the green, but I have not gone so far as to sort of differentiate between different events, different courses, different setups with the around the green play. I do think that there's a glaring need in the stats department that we differentiate between those 25-yard wedge shots and the 5-yard off the green wedge shot. So that's a very good call out. And I'm kind of waiting for that to be part of the next wave. But I don't know how to sort of factor that in personally, but Victor Hovland being the sort of go-to example, I'm lower on Hovland. I'm not alone in that, but for me, I think that you have to be able to do enough around the green this week. So that is a key stat for me, despite everything I just said about it not being that impactful or predictive.
I've started to look at a single golfer playing a single hole as like a 2-act play, and everything before they get on the dance floor, and then putting. And putting is its own thing, and it's a mess, and I'll never solve it, and I'm fine with that. But I think one of the problems I have with around the green is it's so, everything's reliant on the shots before it. Once you start getting there is, the same thing with, hey, this guy's great with his irons. Yeah, but at this course, he's going to spray it a little, and the rough is super penal, and it's not going to matter. And you end up with some things like that. And the further downstream you get, it starts to get a little wonky. And then, like you said, with the stabilization rates of something where you can chip in from maybe a lucky chip in or something here or there, that throws it off for the next, whatever. If you're using too small of a sample size, and anything not good, but those lucky chip ins really screw with around the green. And I almost just left it out this week because I really didn't understand what we'd see. And now the more I look at it, it's like, man, everybody's going to be off the green. And I joked about this off the air because it's kind of a joke, but I did play the course on the Nintendo Switch, and I jacked the wind up, and I'm like, man, you know what people are going to have to do if the winds are 25 miles an hour on these par 3s? They're going to aim at this bunker. Like, they're not going to hold the green. Like, there's 6 bunkers around this. It's 225 yards from the pin. Like, I would just aim at this bunker and have a nice little 15-yard shot out of the sand because I can hold a bunker. I'm fine doing that if I hit it. So I think we might see a lot of chipping just based off some embarrassing, tee shots on 3s and second or third shots into these greens. So it might come up huge. And that's funny if we kind of downweight it and it turns out to be maybe the most important damn thing on the course this weekend.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Spieth talk
about we can complain all.
No, go ahead, Brendan.
I was going to say we can complain all we want, or at least I can, about how not granular strokes gained around the green is, but there's nothing worse than sand saves. That's such a bad stat. We still need some sort of stat to help us figure out who's good out of the bunkers. So if it comes down to bunker play, it's kind of a toss up because we don't have any good stats for that.
Yeah. A couple things for us to solve here at BetSports Golf as we continue to evolve on the stat side. So a couple of projects here we can get rid of the noise and around the green and solve bunkers. But Spieth was talking about too, like, leaving yourself short at times because you're going to be, upgrading versus downgrading. And like, it's just such, again, to contextualize that is so hard and so noisy for us to really get a sense of like, all right, if you poke it through and you aren't able to hold it versus you come up a little short and you're on a false front, what the grain is doing and how that's going to play even different too with the, Bermuda short grass that they put around the greens here. So yeah, this is interesting, guys. I mean, again, we know Thursday, we'll know more Thursday. But again, we're going to have weather in the afternoon and we'll find reasons. Maybe there'll be some stuff in tournament that we can bet on that I think is really interesting. Some other stuff too. Obviously Bryson out. Don't think he was going to be garnering much attention from any of us in the betting markets or DFS anyway. But he is officially out. And now we kind of have this, we're back to using Google Translator to work on, Japanese articles to get understanding of Hideki and his neck, or if it's something similar or different or new. That's petrifying as someone who absolutely loves Hideki this week. Hideki's in the early wave. It was an outright play, top 20 bets, matchups, finding any way to get down on Hideki money. Steven, do you have any concerns? Seems like he's going to be good to go, but again, obviously, looked pretty damn good on Sunday at Craig Ranch with a 62, having us feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I might eat my words, but if he's playing at TPC Craig Ranch and lighting it up on Sunday, like I'd be hard pressed to believe that he's risking that, to risk missing a major. But he might have tweaked it. I haven't heard anything from our guys on the ground, so usually that's good news. But yeah, we'll be following the Twitter machines early tomorrow morning and tonight, just in case he does WD, because I'm with you. I like his chances here too.
Yeah, what time's lock? Am I gonna have to get up early?
Yeah,
I mean, first tee time's like 7 a.m. Oklahoma time. So
I'll be up. It's not West Coast. I'm worried. Or it's not like though. There's always that one that's like it's not even East Coast time, but the Dominican one where they're like even an hour past the East Coast or something. Right. Starts way too early for me. But all right, we'll be fine on that one.
Yeah, that makes me nervous. Is that a guy that's on your radar this week, Brandon? I mean, again, early wave advantage, obviously ball striking, strokes gained around the green. He's good. We always think of Hideki as, a bad short game player, but I think that's wrong. He's a bad putter, right? Historically. And even that's actually been pretty much improved. Again, small sample, but trending well so far in 2022, but a wizard around the greens. He's very much in play for me. What are your thoughts on Hideki?
Yeah, I mean, I was look, whenever you get to a major and you're building out, whether it's your DFS pool or some guys you're interested in betting, you really have to nitpick at the top and just throw some guys out just because you can't play everyone. Hideki wasn't really on the top of the list for me, but with the win splits here, sort of, and that's not going to drive everything for me, but he was just borderline anyway because he fits everything I'm looking for. With that really good around the green play, I have him in the 78th percentile over the past year with adjustments for recency and field strength in this field. That's really good. 94th percentile iron play. He should fit exactly what we're looking for. So I'm getting higher on Hideki. I'm getting a little bit lower on some other names, but it's just so hard because everyone's in play at the top of a major. So I don't think I'm going to be highest on Hideki, but I wouldn't say that I'm low on him by any means.
Yeah, you got to find stories to tell yourself to either bet a guy. We talk about this a lot, right? With Feinberg on Tuesdays, where you just especially in a major, to cross these guys off at the top of the board, you have to make some choices. It's very difficult to do so, and it's very easy to tell yourself some stories. Andy, are you reluctant on Hideki? I don't think Hideki was part of your card anyway. Oh, was he? Okay. Yeah.
And I found a place that let me get probably more than I wanted to bet, but I was surprised they took that much on top Japanese at a good price. So I am married to Hideki more than my wife at this point. So I need him to either withdraw before the tournament starts or be very healthy. If he's healthy, I mean it's Kanaya and Nishino, like he beats those guys. That's fine. He just has to play well. And this is a tough course for those guys. So it's a tough course for everybody. I know my mind kind of wandered when you were talking Bryson, and then we were talking top, and Brandon brought up top of the board, field strength, and all that. People have brought up, well, a really big long shot won last year. This isn't like Herman winning, This was a guy who's won majors before, who, just goes up to the Champions Tour and just, absolutely stunts on him. Like he still had that in the bag. Like he was just a long number because he was older and he hadn't done much. Like it's certainly not. I went and looked at like that same price range. It's not going to be everybody's here, and then Harry Higgs wins this thing. I don't think that should be a narrative.
Dude, Harry Higgs at majors, and he just I
don't mind. That's what I said. I have a lot of guys where I'm fine with them at top 20 prices. Like it just feels like if any of those guys runs just red line in that that 200 to 1 range, or your $6,000 guys, like if they red line, like good, hey, good for you, T13, that was awesome. Like you really did well this week. Like there's just too many people at the top for that sort of thing to happen, unless it's something like we had with Phil, and I don't think we have to worry about that this year. So it just, I don't think it's boring to see somebody at the top win, but I'm kind of stuck in that spot where I don't see a lot of these longer names even threatening come weekend time. I hope it's a star-studded board, so that's what I'm cheering for a little.
Yeah. So, Brandon, you talked about some reluctancy again with the weather wave stuff around earlier in the week and being kind of caught on the wrong side of it. What does some of the stuff at the top of the board look like for you as far as leans, whether that's FanDuel plays or whether that's outright bets? Who's kind of guys that you've already made plays on, or guys that maybe you're looking at here as we kind of take in as much information as we can before we get started tomorrow morning?
I would say the two biggest names that I'm sort of reversing on, and again, it's not like I was low on these guys because you have to be low on someone, but the two guys I'm kind of seeing myself probably be more likely to start FanDuel lineups with is Rory McIlroy and Cam Smith. I was talking to Jim Sonis on the Heat Check podcast over the top four at FanDuel. We have John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Justin Thomas, and I had to rank someone last, and I had Rory last, and I might now have Rory first just because of the expected draw there. Cam Smith also, someone, we're hearing from some people that this could be comp to Augusta. I kind of see that. If you look at strokes gained, if you remove off the tee and just say these fairways are going to be wide enough, you can be long. One thing we haven't talked about is the distance here, but a lot of that distance comes on some longer par threes, not a whole lot of like super long holes. If you look at strokes gained fairway through green, then so approach around the green putting, Cam Smith leads the field in that, according to my data over the past year. So Cam Smith, Rory, definitely moving up the board for me, and I think I might start more FanDuel lineups with them. Whereas earlier in the week it was going to be more of a JT Cantlay sort of start. Ooh. So those are the two guys that I'm really keying in on at the top, and I think things have changed the most for them.
Yeah, two bets I made earlier in the week at the top of the board are JT and Cantlay. So I still feel good about them because I like their game and I don't want to get caught up in those things. But I'm with you too on the Cam Smith thing. Andy, you thought you got a bad number. Maybe your number is actually pretty good on Cam Smith where we're at right now. I don't know if you've looked at any of that CLV to roll over, buy your wife a nice purse just because you automatically get that CLV in the bag.
Yeah, I think 22, 20. I don't remember where I had him at, but I like him quite a bit this week. And he got a good tee time. If we're gonna go with we'll just be presumptuous about the weather and say that we're gonna have a good wave split, at least for Friday or Thursday. So yeah, I like Cam Smith quite a bit. I loved Rory form coming in. Just again, it's a weird thing with the the Augusta comp again, and it's one of those weird rounds where he had like a 0.5 winning percent chance. Like it never went over that, I bet, as far as that awesome Sunday. It's not like he was in contention. I mean, he made himself some extra money, and it was nice to see him play on a tough course like that. But the form coming in, I liked Rory. It sucks that he his price is depressed, but Rory, I mean, you guys are just naming the whole card. I think it was Rory, Cam, Hideki, and then this goes back to Sanas. He loves Sam Burns. I had Sam Burns. That's the biggest number I bet. Sam Burns is the longest shot I have in my card. I found a 50 to 1. He was 35 to 1 pretty much in the market. So I'm expecting someone with some skills to be winning this. I don't expect some long shots. All my long shots are top 40 guys. Mito. It's a Mito week. It's always the Chileans for me.
Mito got a nice draw too. Steven, what did you like at the top of the board?
Yeah,
tough not to like Scheffler, obviously. But
I was wondering if we were going to go all the way around and not mention him.
Nobody's talked about him this week. This poor guy is having the year of all. I mean, outside of some of the Tiger years, he's having a fucking year.
Yeah, just like take all your bullets that you're going to sprinkle on, the mid-range and long shots and just put it on Scheffler and, count your money at the end of the week. I do believe that. I do think it's his week, buying into all the narratives. But beyond him, I think Jordan Spieth too, not in this wave advantage that we're talking about, I guess, but just kind of fits everything you're looking for in terms of the creativity you need around the greens if you're going to miss greens. But, his off the tee numbers, the last two events have been, Jordan Spieth 2017, 2015-esque. So if we get that version of Spieth, even if it plays really tough and longer than the scorecard might indicate, I think it could be a Spieth week. I think a top 20 on Spieth too is a good way to hedge it. You could get, even money on Spieth top 20. I think that's pretty strong. And then the other guy who I haven't really heard too many people mention, but, we're talking about majors. We're talking about hit fairways, hit greens. It's Louis Oosthuizen. I mean, he hasn't had a great 2022, so that's why we're seeing the numbers, lower on him. So maybe it's a little value at plus 280 for a top 20. And then first round leader, I think he's third in the field in major first round scoring average since 2018. So you can find Louis as a first round leader, 65-1, even with the top 5 each way. I think that's a pretty strong bet. Obviously a bit of a dart throw with the first round leaderboard, but a fun one. And Louis usually comes through in these majors.
Yeah. Our
just
not
at the end.
Yeah. No,
not at the end. First round.
No. I still see the tee shot on 17 going down the hill.
I think I had 90-1 on him that day. I went to the movies in the morning with my daughter. I said I can't watch this round, and he had a 2-stroke lead when I got out of there. I should have gone back, made it a double feature, but that and somebody Drew. You can always tell when Drew has a Calcutta tonight because he starts asking like golf questions in the late afternoon. And one of the questions he's asked is like, nobody's brought up Usti. I haven't heard anybody talk about him hardly at all. I'm like, I don't know why. He's been very successful at major tournaments. He fits everything. And I mean, it's not like he's playing poorly. So maybe he's a guy that needs to find. I think I do have pulled up some matchups that I like him in just based where he's priced right now, who he's being matched up with. So I'll probably play him in some matchups, but I don't hate a first round leader shout on him.
Yeah. I do like the expanded market.
Do we know what his health is?
Yeah, the back was his back, right? Is that
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess last we would have seen him was he withdrew from the Masters. That I mean, my data always loves Louis, and especially at majors. But that's just kind of, I figure I have enough options. That's kind of where I have been with Louis. But if he's healthy, I mean, yeah, it's a fantastic call.
Yeah, no one's going to be on him. DFS wise, I imagine he's going to be sub 5% on both sites. It's not
Valspar. Yeah, it's been a while.
I was saying I like the expanded offerings that we're seeing on the majors with especially like first round leader stuff. We're seeing FanDuel very generous, offering all the way down to T20s in the first round, which is amazing. Again, dead heat rules apply, but it just makes it a little bit easier to stomach some of that stuff. That's kind of how I took a big chunk of Cam Smith exposure instead of getting it outright. Like Cam Smith at plus, at 2-1 to T20 in the first round. Yeah, I feel like that's a good way to start the week with maybe some extra funds to throw down on maybe Scotty when I feel bad that I don't have an outright on Scotty come Saturday morning or something like that. So check those books. All the stuff out there. There's lots of other stuff. Clinton in the chat wants to know if we bet any FanDuel top 40 parlays. Clinton, you damn well know that I bet a shit ton of top 40 pairings, which I absolutely love, which I know is a bad bet. I know that they are not correlated by nature. Parlaying finishing positions are you're stealing a finishing position away from the other person. I get it. Sometimes betting is just fun. And sometimes it is a nice way to just, you want to take a Scotty with a Norin down the board to boost the Norin odds. You feel pretty good about something like that. I feel pretty good about, Scotty and JT or Spieth and Cam. Spieth and Cam T40 is minus 107 on FanDuel. I mean, that feels like a pretty good number. I know that it is minus EV, Andy.
No, I mean you've done a good job of like staying within your means on them, and I think you really picked.
That's what I post.
Yeah, I know what you post. Yeah, you did a good job of like the Masters was a beautiful spot to attack those because hey, guess what? You have to like really, really dump truck it out there to miss the cut here, and then at that point you're almost your odds to top 40 are great. So. You did some nice work at the Masters, I think, with those. But yeah, sports books, in my opinion, should let you parlay anything with anything. And just if they want to give you, reduced odds because it's correlated, whatever. Because people will parlay anything with anything. On the shows this week, we've been parlaying French Open women's futures with like F1 and everything else. They'll let us do it because she's fun. Like even money right now. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad play. So no, I do need to drive down to Iowa and get my legal book on. I was going to say back when 5 Dimes was still an American book, we used to make 25 leg to make the cut parlays. And I mean, talk about negative correlation and but they would always fall like too short. So you'd be like, oh, we were this close. Like we're this close to scoring big. Next major for sure. Time. We're doing this.
Yeah. That PointsBet did pop up a parlay menu today where you can parlay made cuts, which is very nice. So again, liking this expanded offerings, but no one else is touching FanDuel. FanDuel top 40 parlays are a staple currently of my card. And thank you to the fine folks. I will credit Brandon for that, even though I know he is not in charge of doing those things. But he is representing the brand today, and he gets credit for allowing me to parlay T40s every single week. I keep it responsible. Pairings, sometimes I'll get to 3, but it is a fun way to get some exposure. How about some FOMOs, Steven? I know we've talked about some of the stuff that's maybe shifted with the win splits and some of the stuff. Like, who isn't really going to be either part of your player pool in DFS in a major way? Who's really not prominent currently on the betting card that you're going to be that you're just kind of holding on and hoping that they don't burn you?
It's a good question. You guys are talking a lot about Rory, and I hadn't talked myself into him yet. So that's probably something I'll adjust in my DFS lineups at least, because you guys make good points there. I think Koepka too. I don't really have FOMO, but I just don't think he's going to play well here. So yeah, I don't know about FOMO. I do want to run this top 40 FanDuel parlay by you guys though, so see what you think. Again,
safe space, my friend.
Corey Connors minus 105, Cam Young minus 105, Keegan Bradley minus 105, Shane Lowry minus 170. That pays 10-1. What do we think?
Talking my language here.
I was trying to tell Ryan to keep it to 2 legs, but I've made worse bets.
I don't.
How was Corey Connors missing? I did. I'm suddenly liking some Corey Connors top Canadian as well. Yeah. So, and somebody, you've seen that in the chats, Ryan. Somebody is betting Adam Hadwin like they know he's going to forget his clubs on Thursday.
Yeah,
or against Adam Hadwin,
against
rather.
him. Yeah.
Which doesn't. I don't know. And that's the thing you talk about. I said I've been watching some interviews, and you start. You just have to Google these guys to get like the Canadian reporters that are following Hughes and Hadwin and Connors around on their practice round to get the interviews. And now I got to get some South African ones to see if Usti's feeling well. But I mean, I'm not seeing anything. He's just the same boilerplate shit as everyone else. Like, yeah, the greens are sloped. It's going to be a challenge. I'm feeling good though. Just last week was a little tough, but I'm right back at it. So I don't know what's up with him. But if he's not playing well, Connors to top Canadians looking real nice.
Yeah, that's a good look. I can give you a thumbs up there confidently, Steven. I feel good about that one.
Let's go.
My irresponsible 4-legger is correlated to the early wave, but I have a Cam Smith, Spieth, Noren, and Cam Young plus 675.
Yeah, I like Noren too. It's a good call.
Yeah, I kind of love Noren. Tough golf courses.
I wanted. We brought Brooks up, or Steven did. I wanted to know your thoughts on that, Brandon, because his spot in my rankings is not gone up much over the last month. It's been sitting pretty low. I've been hesitant to bet too much against him because of his ceiling, but A lot of his like second shot stuff has been really rough. He's not finding greens. He's just not scoring on places where he normally score. I have Brooks really low. Like I'm full at this point. I'm probably Brooks fade DFS, and I might be betting against him in matchups.
Yes, I mean his salary's 11.3 on FanDuel. That's pretty high. I would rather just bet him if I want some exposure there. He's plus 4,800 on FanDuel Sportsbook. The thing that really jumps out to me with Brooks right now, and this is a little bit scary because this stuff can turn around a bit, is that the putter hasn't been particularly good. And that is a little bit of a concern, but I have looked into some expected putting regression numbers, and his putter should be warming up eventually. He's been a lot better from within 15 feet, which is a really key range, than he has been on the lag putting. So I think he's been sort of lagging behind a little bit more than where he should based on where the putting has sort of fallen for him. And I've actually started looking into spike weeks because upside is so important in golf. I think that floor is really a fallacy when it comes to PGA DFS, unless I guess you're like Matt Fitzpatrick, because he just has like no real he has no real variance.
His
in
floor
what
and
he
his
does
ceiling are touching. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I look for 80th percentile results in adjusted putting, so field adjusted putting or field adjusted tee to green, Brooks is really good still over the past year in adjusted tee to green. He's like 10th in this field, but in putting, he's only had an 80th percentile event in 6% of his events over the past year. The putter just has not been there. And I'm kind of assuming, thinking back to Brooks, whenever he's been dominating in majors, he's making all those 8-footers for par, saving par, making birdies. Like, the putter can come and go. The putter, again, should be better for him than it has been. But, it doesn't just sort of click all at once generally. And if it does, I mean, Brooks is definitely going to be a force, but his around the green play isn't particularly good. And with him, the thing is like, it's always hard to model out Brooks because I think his just motivation is not always there. So you're kind of factoring in what he's doing at events that he just doesn't really care about. That bogs down the ball striking data. So I always have a hard time with Brooks, but I think I'm more off of Brooks than I am on, even though the betting odds are really good, and he should sort of be overlooked because people matching the betting odds to the salaries, they're going to leave him a little bit overlooked. So again, I think I'm out on Brooks, even though there are some reasons to think that he'll turn something around eventually.
Yeah, if we want to get into like the coach speak narrative in the golfing world, is Brooks talking this week about withdrawing from TBC Craig Ranch because he's like, hey, I don't know that going to a place where we're going to get to 25 under is going to serve me heading over to Southern Hills. And he said instead he was watching old film of him being dominant putting. And found something he thinks this week. It feels like he's in a good spot. So again, that is the definitely the coach speak narrative. But again, like he sounded kind of excited that he was down on the odds board. Someone asked him about that as well. And again, it feels like he's got kind of that mentality where he can find reasons to justify that and fuel him. And I don't know if that matters in golf as much as it does in other sports when you actually put your hands on other people, but Brooks seems to be one of those guys that maybe can find reasons to tell himself a story that he's been left for dead by the betting public. And these are the spots where we love him. So he counts as FOMO for me because I don't currently have it. And I know that I'm going to hate not having him. And then it goes back to the initial discussion around strokes gained around the green. We're in this ball striker's paradise. And I don't have any Victor Hovland and I don't have any Colin Morikawa. And it feels like it could be a very bad thing if I'm overrating the around the green stuff. So I'm probably going to build I'm going to throw Homa in that too, because Homa, that's kind of his only weakness. If that doesn't matter from a DFS standpoint, I'm going to have a lineup where they're all grouped together. But none of them are really prominently featured on the betting card. How about any other FOMOs for you, Brandon?
Yeah, Morikawa is always one for me. I let a lot of my decisions be just sort of based in the data, and it's really hard with Morikawa sometimes because the short game, which usually we mean putting, but like in this sense, I mean the wedge play and the putting, just doesn't stack up very well relative to the other studs. And so whenever I'm looking at a major, I'm always looking for all 4 strokes gain stats. They all matter. If you have holes in your game, you can be exposed. Morikawa has overcome that a few times in majors, as we know. So I'm always too low on Morikawa. And the case for Morikawa, for Hovland, for Homa, who I like as well, is, well, they just hit all the greens, or a lot more greens than everyone else, because they have that ability. And you can tell yourself that story. It's something that Jim and I talk about all the time on our podcast, is sort of telling yourself the story of, hey, if their irons are good enough, they're not going to have to rely on the wedges. And so that's the kind of lineup that you can go with. But Morikawa is the name that keeps jumping out to me as the FOMO name at the top, because we know what his upside is in a major. So he's the one that I'm lowest on, I think, or too low on.
He's terrifying. Any FOMOs for you, bud?
Yeah, I mean, did we all say Morikawa? Talk about another guy that just nobody brought up. Like, it has been. It's almost like the same thing we did with Rahm for part of the year. Like, oh, why isn't he winning every tournament? He sucks now. He's the worst number one. Yeah, winning a golf
40 minutes in his first mention.
Yeah, winning a golf tournament's super hard. Even if you're the best, you still have to beat, somebody else whose ceiling is as high as yours, or even maybe higher. If they top out that week and you have a 95% week, you still lose. Like, it's, having these 80, 90% weeks, you don't always win tournaments because it's bleeping hard. There's so many guys out there. And I think the same thing can be said for Morikawa. It's not like he's gotten precipitously worse, but we have seen it, like his iron play. If you look at where it's at, it's like, shit, he's a really good irons player. But where it was at last year was better. Like, he was, number one with a bullet. So it's come back to earth a little, but it's still high enough where I don't think discounting him in a course like this is probably a smart idea. So I like him in matchups. I didn't play him outright. I just don't play that many outrights. I think I usually limit myself to 4 or 5, and I end up sticking with ones where I think there's probably a little value at the number. His number's probably good. What was his tee time? Where'd he end up? Is he an afternooner? I didn't hear him in any of your parlays, so I'm assuming he's not like 7 a.m.
Yeah, no, he's not. No, he's 136. So yeah, he's an afternooner.
Yeah, maybe, you know what? If he fights through it and he plays well in the wind, and I think he can, maybe he's a live ad, because he's got the skill set. So I'll be pissed if, and King Zal, like, just if he breaks his maiden at a course like this with a field like this, I'm gonna be so pissed that I don't have some, but I'll be happy for him anyway.
It's good, Aaron Wise.
Well, I was gonna say, if that's how we're basing it, then my FOMO is always Xander. So
yeah. He did cash. What was I placed a American wins the gold medal ticket, basically, and a lot of it was based on Morikawa's like win equity. And, Xander was a big part of that too, but it was like, if I win this, it's because I really like this course for, a couple of these golfers. And I'm like, if Xander wants to win it, whatever, I'll take it. It wasn't a big price, but that was like my only Olympic golf win, because I certainly didn't have any CT Pond to medal.
I can't stop with the Zalator stuff. It will eventually pay off someday, probably before Aaron Wise. But, Aaron Wise not on the card this week. Luckily, he got a bad tee time, and that helps justify keeping him completely off the card. That would sting. If Aaron Wise is final group Sunday, and I'm having to bet him live at like plus 120 when I've been burning money on him for, you know what I mean. All right, we'll go around the board. 2 guys. It's not locks, but 2 guys that are prominently featured, either betting card, DFS. We'll each get to the guys that are your heavy exposure to this week. Brandon, who is we'll let you get started with our top 2 guys here.
So I think that at this point where I'm landing, and I didn't really settle in on a lot of bets. I usually am very bad with that, and I wait till the last second. So I have a lot of flexibility here this week. I think it's going to be Cam Smith and Xander, and that feels weird because I was so heavy on JT and Cantlay, and it's not like I'm writing them off entirely, but if I'm really sort of thinking about 2 guys who I should probably be higher on than the field In terms of DFS, it'd be Cam Smith and Xander. These guys do everything well. If it plays like Augusta, then that's good news for both of them. They've done really well, of course, at Augusta. And so just that all-around play is pretty vital. And I think that for me, it's going to be Cam and Xander, who happen to be two of my favorite just on-field or on-course guys, even though I know people find Xander boring. I think it's going to be Cam and Xander.
Nothing wrong with boring. Cash some checks, and he's been doing that pretty well for quite a long time. He's been fine boring. Steven, what do you got? Two guys for us.
Spieth, I talked about why I like him. He's the opposite of boring because he always keeps you on the edge of your seat. But I think the other guy that we haven't mentioned yet, and just in DFS, I think could unlock some guys at the top of the price range. But it's Kevin Na. He's 6,900. And I think in the high sevens on FanDuel. So Kevin Na gaining a ton on approach the last 3 tournaments and really good proximity numbers, 175 to 200. You make the comp to Augusta, and he's got a great record at Augusta, short game. But if the ball striking's coming along with the short game, I think that just gives a lot of value to Kevin Na. So I'm not sure if he's going to be very chalky down there. He might be down in the 6K range. So got to monitor that. But, if he's like in the 10% range, I think Kevin Na, could easily finish top 20 and unlock a lot of success for people's lineups.
Yeah, I'm looking at DraftKings ownership, so I don't have access to any FanDuel projected ownership, but like we're seeing sub 5% on Na. So I imagine that probably there's, for the most part, especially down the board, it correlates pretty well with what happens at FanDuel as well. So that's interesting. Yeah.
11th
in strokes gained approach.
God, I hate him because of Control F. Like you can't look him up in your spreadsheet because Finau and Molinari, and then there's Ardness this week, and you can't just look up Kevin. There's like 6 Kevins too.
Yeah, it took me a while to find his tee time because I had to Control F it, but he is.
I don't have him. I have him. Yeah, I have him. Higher than somebody who's priced where he is for sure. He's not a bad look.
Yeah, 8:33 tee time. That works. Yeah. Andy, 2 guys.
Man, the Spieth thing, I joked about betting him because I'm like, I kind of want to cheer for him. So hopefully my numbers suss it out. But yeah, Spieth is for sure there. He was the guy I bet against a lot last year when he had some of his struggles. There's nothing better than a marquee golfer who's struggling because they still have a good name. If you want to bet against somebody who's just trading on their name for a whole summer, sometimes the market just refuses to believe that they can play poorly for 3 months in a row, but he's playing a lot better, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get his fill his crown jewel here. So him and remember when we were all Shane Lowry stands for like a week, like a month ago? What happened? How many? Yeah. I think this is just indicative of, hey, guess what? Everyone's here. Everyone but, Bryson, Phil, and Harris English, I guess. But there's so many big names we just keep saying, we haven't even talked about this guy yet, but Lowry's super high for me. Just everything he does, he's another really good ball striker. He finds greens and regulations at a super high rate. He's a good bogey avoider. And just like the driving distance, it's middle of the pack. Like I'm not trying to just bet all the bombers, even the accurate bombers. I don't want the guys who spray at 340, but I'm going to stay away from some of the guys who are super short off the tee because it's going to be tough when your third shot into these 5s is 140 yards away. But it's for sure, I'm looking at baseline. You need to be an average driver of the ball as far as distance, and he's for sure there. So Lowry's going to be in a lot of matchups and probably some top 20 looks for me as well.
Yeah, I know that like finishing position is not a predictive stat and is very, very, very descriptive and limited even in that. But when you kind of look at his finishes outside, strokes gained finishes, really you're eliminating the match play. I mean, he has just been insane. Just printing T12s, T3s. He hasn't been able to close the door, as we know, a couple of times, getting real close. But it's been a pretty remarkable 2022 for him. So, yeah, again, as we know, if the weather gets wonky, we have a pretty good track record of him being able to navigate that successfully as well, right? So that obviously bodes well for him. Another guy that's kind of in that boat, I'm going to be the guy that cheats. I'll give you my 2 at the end, but we didn't talk about a couple other guys that could be really good if wind is a problem, low ball flights. Joaquin Niemann, he's long and straight and hits it low. I thought was going to be really buzzy coming into the week. Again, I think if you can win at Riv, you can win anywhere. We've seen some really nice rounds for him post Riv. Just kind of an ascending player that I think we all like. This doesn't feel like a Daniel Berger track, but Daniel Berger is kind of a guy for me that I always love. Small greens. I talked about this last night with J-Maz. I love the fact that Berger thinks of himself as a 30-1 guy and a 20-1 guy. That somehow matters to me. I think he thinks that he is that dude and likes to show up in these big majors and wants to continue to show better. So he's a guy that, again, I wish he had an early tee time. I'd feel better about that, but maybe someone I look to exploit in matchups or, live if things start to go his way. The 2 guys for me, I'm going to just trust that Decky is okay and continue to lean on Decky. And I love Justin Thomas.
God, I hope he's okay.
JT, there's just not a hole in that game. And if strokes gained around the green matters, we know that strokes gained approach is going to matter. The distance is there. The putting can get white hot. As Brandon's talked about, we really need kind of spiked weeks from a putting standpoint. And, the range of outcomes can be very high with JT. And sure, the range of outcomes on the other end is there too, but it felt good about how he went to Craig Ranch. Doesn't typically play the week before a major, but I think he saw a lot of birdies drop. I think that helped him kind of get his mind right. I think obviously he would have loved to have bagged the win, but again, I just kind of like where he's at and feel really good about JT this week. So shout out to Cam Young. We didn't talk about Cam Young, who's was down the board at some point, who everyone and their brother is either better is going to play in DFS. Is it no longer counts as a bomb because he's 50 at Bookmaker and Pinnacle and some other really sharp books, who was available at 180 earlier, 180 during the week earlier. So Cam Young is a guy that's again, advantageous tee time and kind of checks a lot of boxes too.
Yeah, you just got to figure out 5 players for your DFS because Cam Young's ownership is stupid now. I'm probably just going to Cam Young fade in big tournaments, see what happens. I don't care. It's money.
Is that good shot?
We're just going to win it back in betting.
One name that I haven't heard yet, and it just is how it goes in majors, but what are your thoughts on DJ, everyone?
Yeah, I was a sucker and got caught in DJ showing well at match play and bet him mid match play at the Masters, and that did not work so well. I don't know, he's the driver was the thing that was really worrisome, having bet him outright at the Masters and watching him refuse to take it out of his bag. That's concerning. Steven, have you ever heard anything on the ground as far as DJ basically eliminating that club? That's going to be a problem here.
Yeah, I mean, he could hit the 2-iron stinger, right up there with Woodland and Tiger. So, I think off the tee wise, yeah, that little left miss, the double miss that he had going, definitely a concern. And yeah, I'm falling in love with the narrative of, DJ not really practicing as much, post wedding. Then honeymoon, I know that he was on his honeymoon for a week or so in a nice Caribbean destination. So yeah, I don't know. I would rather go with some of these other guys at the top. But, that being said, this could be a DJ course otherwise, off the tee, huge approach, and, his short game isn't so bad. He won at Oakmont where short game's important too. So yeah.
Missing left isn't the worst. Missing the way he's been missing is probably a problem. Yeah. I played golf on my honeymoon. I'm sure he thought about getting around. Yeah, I'm sure he got a round or two in.
He definitely played because the destination he was at is a pretty big golf destination. But I'd say Paulina probably kept him doing other activities most of the time.
It's not fair to have the mindset where I think this guy lives on honeymoon, right? His life resembles our honeymoons more than anyone else. So I can't imagine it being too far from a normal week for him. But he's definitely an interesting name. I don't currently have him much anywhere. And again, maybe it's just having the master stuff where I was just felt like that was a place for him, and was caught up in maybe bad performance the year before as the host champion and those things, and thought maybe, hey, you can get back to here and look to be in good form and was getting right. But yeah, he's a guy that is a cross off for me right now. So you got to make cross off somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of big names. You can't bet them all. You could. That wouldn't go very well.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he's in a weird price
expensive.
range where it's like, you'd rather, I guess, man, he's down at 33. Guy's a major champion. I'm going to hate myself. That's my new FOMO. What if he's like hyper focused now? You guys, I don't know, like, you ever plan a wedding? It's the worst. It was the worst thing. I've had bad things happen to me in my life. Planning a wedding was the worst thing that I've ever done.
I don't think
he said he just did the seating chart.
That's he's talking big. Like he's a big
30 minutes on the seating chart.
I let her handle it. I still had to listen to it for 2 years. And God, I'm glad she doesn't watch these. But just like all the questions that I didn't have answers for, it's a grind. Having that over with was a bigger relief than like actually getting married. So I think he's probably in a good headspace right now. I had to bet some DJ now that I'm thinking a little outside the box here.
Brandon just talked you into it. So, gentlemen, I genuinely appreciate your time. I know you guys are doing so much content for your own stuff this week. So giving us an hour of your time is much, much appreciated. Brandon, let everyone know where they can find you and all your stuff.
Yeah, everything I do is at numberFire.com. All my golf stuff, I do win simulations, post those with, key stats for the courses, my favorite DFS picks for FanDuel. I'm on Twitter at Gdula13, GDULA13. Did a putting regression study up on numberFire. And then just today I looked at stabilization rates of strokes gained stats, trying to figure out like how long we need to see from a putter to know that it's hot, or if we see like a blip of one or two bad ball striking events, what that means. So that's where I am.
Love it. Steven, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, check out the Be Right podcast from Golf Digest, and obviously our Experts Picks column, which Brandon is a part of and has been since the start in 2018. Kind of crazy. We're almost 5 years of the column, and we're due for a winner. We've had a great stretch at times, but I think we're due for an outright. Been good matchup, top 10 wise over there. But everyone go check out all the Golf Digest betting stuff. We got a lot of content.
You've hit winners. The way you phrase that, we've been doing it for 5 years. We're due for a winner.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. The last 2 months, no outrights in the column. Obviously, Brandon and other guys have hit outrights, but it's tough when you only pick one guy. Everyone's cards, a little more diverse than that. So,
for sure. Yeah. You really sold you guys this column short, though. It's I've definitely read that. So, yeah, appreciate the time, guys. Good luck with all your bets, your DFS, your watching. What's the watching plan before we let you go? Just couch for 4 days.
Yeah, I also live blog for Golf Digest each day of a major, so it's a grind. It's 12 hours on the couch and working the entire time. So I envy everyone who gets to enjoy a couple of drinks and just sit back and relax and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll be in the office, TV in front, laptop to the side with whatever stream I choose with the featured groups. But yeah, we're kind of working through it. It always feels, all these majors feel like football Sunday when I'm doing like the noon to midnight kind of stuff, but kind of back to that for 4 days. So that's always fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but there's like so much to do still.
Yeah.
I'll be at the bar though. There's a bar down the street. I try to get a nice.
Only that much to do, Andy.
I know. Well, I go get a breakfast like right as the first round's starting. I go have
steak and eggs.
They don't serve liquor till 8, so I might have to hang out for a bit if I want to get a bloody. But I've done that. I tried to order one at like 7:30. They're like, yeah, you can't have one yet. Nothing makes you feel like a drunk that ordering it before they're even. Yeah, sir, we can't serve you yet. But also appreciate it, guys, and I'll look for that live tweeting, live blogging, and all the stuff you guys do throughout the tournaments. And in a month we'll do this over again. Jeez, they're just gonna come rapid fire all summer, Ryan. So.
I know. Don't forget, this is the last week to cash in on the page giveaway. You got to get in. BetSportsGolf.com/newsletter. You can win a round with Paige. It is going to be late June. Geneva National, just over the border there in Wisconsin. You get 18 holes with her. You get to play 54 there by yourself. She only gets to kick your ass the one time. We'll fly you out there, feed you 2 days accommodations. That's going out to 2 folks. All you got to do is free. Have your name in the newsletter. So and then this week as well, get a betting sub at 4 for 4. And you're going to get a free sub at betspurtsgolf.com as well. So lots of great stuff coming on at 4 for 4. Come hang out in an hour. Move the line. Another show. If you don't love my face enough for golf, I'm going to talk football to you in an hour. So check that out, as well as everything going on. There's lots of free stuff over at betspurtsgolf.com. So for Andy, Brandon, Steven, I'm Ryan. We will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
Do, do, do.